How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 3.
Hello, America. Welcome. It's Eric Erickson here across the United States, broadcasting from Middle Georgia. The phone number is 877-973-7425. I have one public service announcement, and while I've been thinking about it, I really do need to say it because it's about to probably happen at this moment 3 hours from now. I am now back on the radio in the city in which I live, and I am now over a half dozen people, and this should make WMAC, the local affiliate, feel good. I am at over a half dozen people in the past few days stopping me while I'm grocery shopping in the evening. God forbid we do a grocery list in our house when the grocery store's across the street. I can just go because I'm dad and unlimited number of trips to the grocery store every day. And I've had more than a half dozen people now come up and say, I was just listening to you on the radio. How can you be here? Because I'm not live on the station right now. So you're listening in delay. And I love you for listening to me. Don't let that discourage you from listening. Thank you very much for listening. I'm so delighted to be back on. But that's why I'm standing in front of you right now at the grocery store while you were just in your car listening to me. I've gotten a kick out of it. I really have. The very first day, this lady who I know, we go to church together, absolutely flummoxed, just can't figure out. She was just in her car listening to WMAC, and there I was. She was so happy to finally hear me on. How can I be in the grocery store when she was just listening to me on the radio? Couldn't figure it out. And then it happened again and again and again and again and again. So that's why. It's the magic of radio. Thank you so much for listening. Please also, I kind of would like to go grocery shopping. Now, I got to talk about Venezuela for a minute. Look, well, I'll get back to your phone calls. 877-973-7425 is the phone number, and I want to get back to we'll get back to the Minneapolis situation, but I've got to talk to you about Venezuela. The President of the United States has said he has stopped another attack on Venezuela. That the Venezuelans are now complying with the demands of the President of the United States, and that there is no reason for the president to engage militarily on another attack in Venezuela. Now, what happened the other day is, this is kind of the wild thing to me. Have you ever heard of the Pentagon Pizza Tracker? There are people who keep an eye on a pizza delivery service or a pizza service at the Pentagon, and when the wait time skyrockets, they know people in the Pentagon are having a late night eating pizza. Apparently, all they eat is pizza. And so people got a sense that something was happening the other day, that another attack was coming. There was a massive spike in the wait time for pizzas, and then nothing happened. And the result is a president who has come out now and said that, in fact, there was going to be another attack in Venezuela, but they have started releasing the peaceful opposition from prison, which is what the president wanted. As a result, the president has wound down. Now, this is from CBS News that I'm reading right here. President Trump is planning to meet with a group of oil industry executives at the White House today as his administration presses oil companies to re-enter Venezuela. The president said earlier in the day he canceled the previously expected second wave of attacks on Venezuela because it's been working well together. A U.S. delegation arrived in Venezuela on Friday to carry about technical and logistical assessments to renew diplomatic ties. The president said he plans to meet Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado next week after she said she'd like to share her Nobel Peace Prize with him. That was diplomatic on her front, isn't it? Asked by CBS News whether the Venezuela strikes were part of a broader foreign policy doctrine, Mr. Trump said, no, it's a doctrine of don't send drugs into our country. So there you go. Also, we know that beyond this incursion, we have seized more tankers. Now, where's this Wall Street Journal story? I just had it up. Y'all, if you could see how many windows I have open right now with all the different news stories happening right now. Here we go. This Wall Street Journal. The U.S. Coast Guard seized a fifth oil tanker Friday and continued to eye other vessels trying to evade the U.S. blockage on sanctioned tankers traveling to and from Venezuela. The tanker targeted Friday was the Olena, said the officials, and Vanguard, a shipping security and tracking company, not in charge of our 401ks. The ship, previously named the Minerva M, was sanctioned by the U.S. for its role in transporting Russian oil. The move is likely to inflame tensions between Washington and Moscow days after the U.S. seized a ship that claimed Russian protection and was being escorted by the Russian Navy. The ship had an East Timor flag, and the last time it transmitted its position was in mid-November near the coast of Venezuela, according to the Marine Tracker, a global shipping tracking service, which added that it was sailing under a false flag. A U.S. official said the crew didn't resist. The ghost fleets will not outrun justice. They will not hide under false claims of nationality. The Coast Guard, supported by the Marines and other military personnel, launched from the USS Gerald Ford aircraft carrier to board the ship. The Olena loaded 700,000 barrels of Mary crude from Venezuela's Jose terminal on December 24th, according to Kepler, a shipping analytics and data firm. Equasis, a European Union database, lists its owner's Hong Kong company, Tante Pure Limited. The seizures are being used by the Trump administration to exert pressure on Venezuela's interim government and take the so-called dark fleet of tankers out of operation. Now, y'all are probably wondering, what is this dark fleet? Some people call it a shadow fleet. There are about 1,000 oil tankers on the planet that engage in deception to hide their location. They're used by Russia, Iran, Venezuela, and a couple other countries to elude bans, travel bans, and they're not getting away with it. So what do? They do not, most ships, because now, listen, I'm a nerd and I admit it, but I'm not technical with this stuff, so don't get angry with me if you're an expert and I'm stating it not quite accurately. But you know, when you're using radar and stuff, radar is real good for 1,000 feet or so above the ground, but when you're right on the ocean, there are waves and things like that. Radar is not very good for picking up ships necessarily, and you got to be in proximity to them. The oceans are vast. We don't have radar systems embedded in the oceans. So ships use tracking systems, GPS tracking systems, that connect to satellites, and you can see where all the ships are on the planet. There are actually websites you can go to, and you can track every ship at sea. You can see what ship is it. Is it a sailboat? Is it an oil tanker? Is it a cargo vessel? Those ships also, believe it or not, even in the wide open sea, they travel in certain shipping routes. And you don't want those ships to collide at sea, so the ships monitor each other's traffic. When you get close, your local radar works. You're on the same level, but you got to be close. And it takes a long time to stop and redirect one of these ships. These are massive ships. If you've never seen an oil tanker, it is a massive, multi-story high ship. Some of these ships are like 13, 14 stories. I'm in a 14-story building, and some of these ships are as tall as this building that I'm in. They're wild to see. And it takes them a long time to stop. It takes them a long time to turn. And when you're in shared shipping lanes, you want to know where the other ships are. You want to be able to plan. You got computers now to help them. And what these ships do, these shadow fleets or these dark fleets, is they turn off their transponders. So you can't see them unless they're up on you. They're not connected to satellites. Nobody knows where they are. And they'll occasionally ping a satellite to update a general location, then turn it back off. And then what they do is they go outside non-traditional routes. So they're not in the standard shipping lanes. Now, why are there standard shipping lanes? There are historic reasons for shipping lanes, but the modern reason for shipping lanes is that if a ship is in distress and you're in a shared shipping lane, another ship is going to be near you at some point and can come give aid and assistance. So if you all stay in the same common shipping lanes, if something happens to one ship, the other ships can help take care. So if you're one of these dark fleets, you get out of the standard shipping lanes, you cross the ocean in areas where people typically aren't crossing, you turn off your transponders, it's hard to find you. You got to have satellites. And what the satellites do, particularly American spy satellites, what we're doing is we're looking for wakes. If you look down on a ship, pull up a YouTube video of an aerial photograph of any ship, a sailboat, a speedboat, an oil tanker. They leave a big wake of water behind them. And what the spy satellites can do is they can take the transponder signals on the navigable shipping websites, and they can take the wakes that they see in the ocean and overlap them, and everything should line up generally. And if you see a big wake outside of a major shipping channel and there's no transponder beacon, you know that's probably one of the black fleets, one of the dark ships, the shadow fleets. And that's what Venezuela and Russia have been using to get around the oil blockades. Iran as well. They use these ships that are typically flagged to third world countries with a lot of plausible deniability. They load them up with oil and they send them off to China. They send them off to Russia. They send them off to South Africa, even India. And we're looking for those ships that are coming out of Venezuela. We're trying to track them down and find them. And we've now found about a half dozen of them. We've seized them now. So this is the fifth tanker we've seized. We've stopped others from actually leaving port as the president escalates. Now, concurrent to all this, the Colombian president, Gustavo Petro, has decided he's going to come to the White House for a face-to-face with the president. They've used heated language with each other. What's kind of funny is the president was meeting with the New York Times reporters the other day, gave that 2+ hour interview with the New York Times reporters sitting in his office, and Petro called him. And the president sat there with the reporters in his office talking to the president of Colombia. I got to say again, this is not something Joe Biden would do. It's not something Biden would do. And good for the president for pushing both access to reporters. He's now sat down with CBS News and given them a big interview as well. Good for the president engaging with the president of Colombia. They're not fans of each other. They've been strong critics of each other. And the president's now invited the president of Colombia to the White House, which is great. Again, Joe Biden wouldn't do that. Venezuela is now releasing large numbers of political prisoners as a sign of seeking peace, the president is now saying on social media. So he will pause aggressive posture towards Venezuela, except he will continue to block the oil. That's happening right now. And he says we will be in charge of oil. He's meeting with the White House right now, I think, with the oil executives at the White House to try to get those oil executives to reintegrate into Venezuelan commerce and get the oil flowing again. He is not messing with Venezuela. By the way, Hispanic voters in the United States, it's something like 70% support for what he's doing right now. Remember when they told you with the snap poll right after it happened, nobody supported it? Now he's got majority support from the Hispanic community for what he's doing as they've realized what's going on. He's really forcing regime change in Venezuela.
Y'all, I'm not a New Year's resolution guy. I never have been, but I have resolved, I guess you could say, before the New Year's to just drink more water. It's good for you. And I buy bottled water for the office, but I finally broke down and I bought a Cove Pure. So if you don't know what it is, it's an incredible machine. It's got technology that's certified to remove 99.9% of contaminants for the water. It gets rid of PFAs, microplastics, pharmaceutical residue, fluoride. It gets everything removed. It's the purest water you can get, and you just pour tap water in the back and let the filters do the work, and it just works. When I used it for the first time, I didn't realize you could heat up the water. You can chill the water. You can just have regular tap water at room temperature, and it just works with the push of a button. It sits right on the countertop. Didn't have to call a plumber. It makes it really easy. Cove Pure is so easy to get pure water with the push of a button. Do your New Year's resolution. Improve your health with the real clean water. Right now, you can get $200 off for a limited time at covepure.com/Eric. That's COVEPURE, covepure.com/Eric, ERICK.
Welcome back. It is Eric Erickson here. Open line Friday, 877-973-7425. Let's go to the phones. Mitch, you're going to be up next. Welcome.
Hey, Eric. I want to make three statements, observations. I'll keep it brief. Number one is, I thank God for that retired detective that you had on earlier last hour. When I heard it in his voice and I heard his voice cracking, boy, that hurts.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
And you know what? I just want to commend him for claiming that Jesus Christ is his Savior. And that's one. Number two is, I really wish this were not true, but in my heart I think that it is. There are too many people out there, Eric, that are applauding this young girl's tragic death. Applauding it because, you know what, they may be mourning it also, but I think they're applauding it because it is such a distraction from everything that is going on within that state, with all of the fraud and all those things. And then last but not least, I admire the way that you take on those people that question your Christianity. Pharisees back in the New Testament, they could have had the New York Times press pass on them when they tried to trick Jesus. Jesus said, if you are ashamed of me in front of man, I'll be ashamed in front of you in front of the Father. And I just want to commend you for your stance, and I'll hang up and listen, and God bless.
Listen, Mitch, thank you very much. I appreciate that. That's an encouragement. It has been very wild to me in really the last 24 hours or so. You know, I know there is a contingent of people who read what I write or tune in to me because I'm willing to criticize the president. And I am. I was willing to criticize George W. Bush, willing to criticize Donald Trump. I'm not in a cult. I was an elected Republican at one point. I'm not willing to keep my mouth shut. I believe in telling you what I think. And there are people who have gravitated to that because they don't like Trump. They're like, oh, here's somebody who's on the right who's criticizing. But then I defend him and they lose their mind. And I'm sorry, I'm not here to scratch anybody's itch. I'm here to tell you what I think. And in this particular instance, I think the law enforcement officer in a highly tense situation was justified in doing what he did. He didn't know she was attempting to avoid him. He's trying to get her to stop, and her lesbian partner is yelling at her, drive, 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 and she runs into him. Doesn't run him over, runs into him, hits him. He opens fire. These people have been shot around the country. They have been hit by cars in other places. They have been struck by, just the other day, somebody threw a softball at one of the ICE agents and hit them. And people more and more on both sides of the aisle, they want to be affirmed. It actually, I think, I would probably be more successful in my job if I just told you what you wanted to hear and affirmed you. I think that's what some of these internet podcasters are doing is they're saying things they don't necessarily believe, or they've been given money to say to grow their audience. They're scratching the itches of people, tickling the ears of anti-Semites and others, growing their podcast stuff. That is not who I am. I may not get it right, and when I get it wrong, I try to tell you, but I'm not going to lie to you. And if that upsets you, I'm sorry that you're upset with me doing my very best to tell you the truth. And when I get it wrong, correct myself. But I'm not changing. You can change the channel if you need to, if that makes you feel better. But I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear if it's wrong. Hello and welcome. It's Eric Erickson, Open Line Friday, 877-973-7425. Let me go to Dayton, Ohio, to Karen. Welcome to the show. Karen, how are you?
I'm fine, but I have a comment before I ask my question.
All right.
My comment is I listen to no one but you, no other stations, no other person. And I tell people, if you want the truth, if you want to hear, he berates both sides, Republican and Democrat. So you need to listen to Eric Erickson. So
well,
I got the word out to people. They need to listen to you.
Thank you very much. You're my favorite caller.
Oh, well, thank you. And the other comment, I was just listening earlier when they break in for local news, that they're having a big protest in Dayton, the Socialist Club.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and they said, there's more coming, there's more plans, so I don't know exactly what's going on. And real quick about Springfield, that's going back, but I talked to someone that actually lives in Springfield, Ohio. So a lot of what went on was the truth, not what they pictured in New York Times and the different newspapers. But I want to know what, as an individual, just a housewife, we can do to maybe combat this or do something against what's going on. Is there anything we can do?
So there are a couple of things that you can do. One is to make sure your local officials know you support what's going on. But honestly, a big one is if you see an ICE agent or a Border Patrol agent not in the middle of an operation, but just tell them thank you. These guys, they're one of the things that, and I'm not making this up, it actually is part of the operation. If you read the guidebooks for these protesters, they're encouraging a teardown of the morale of these agents. They want them to feel put upon. They want them to feel hated. They want them to feel bad. They want them to be discouraged. And so if you see the ICE agents or the Border Patrol agents, just tell them thank you for what you're doing, that you support them. And that actually goes an unfathomably long way to boosting their morale. They need to know that there are a lot of us out there who do support what they're doing, that we know they're not the bad guys, and that this is a very unfortunate situation that they find themselves in. But it's an awful situation. And they're dealing with a bunch of crazy people. I want to play for you some audio. This is an immigration activist on CNN last night. Listen to this conversation with this group on CNN.
I have to say, though, what underscores so much of this is the great replacement theory, right? This idea that we are replacing, right, what I just said about the numbers. I think what's important to remember is, this country, Germans, Italians, Polish, we were just talking about all the Italians in Philadelphia when I was there 20 years ago doing an internship. I was like, wait, when did these Italian people get to be white? Weren't they something else before? And then my question is, are the Mexicans, Filipinos, Indians, and Chinese, those are the top 4 immigrant groups in this country, right? Are they going to be the next Germans, Italians, Polish, and Irish of the 21st century? And as I ask that question, how do we talk about the fact that this is a country built on anti-blackness? And how do we, as immigrants of color, really grapple with that? So those to me are the big questions. And what Elon is doing here, I think, is really, in many ways, underscoring this Christian white supremacist nationalist movement and the fact that so many Americans are having a panic attack that this country looks the way that it does.
And I will go, just one quick point, I will go back to what you were saying about money, and that I do fundamentally believe that there are more things we have in common that we don't have in common, but it is the belief of a few powerful people that want us to be at each other's throats, even Asians and black people, so that we don't find our commonality to rise above those few.
Right.
Look, amen to the last point, but this idea that the whiteness and we were an anti-black society, we had slavery in this country. Yes, we did. But the idea that we haven't put that sort of stuff behind us, there's this festering resentment on the left. In fact, one of the protesters, I don't have the video in front of me, but one of the protesters said that she felt bad even being there to remember Renee Good because white tears are meaningless. It was a white woman saying that. Meanwhile, you have Michael Fanone. You know Michael Fanone. He's was the police officer on Capitol Hill on January 6th. He's been elevated as some sort of superhero by the media. They put him on all the time. He is on some podcast encouraging people to shoot ICE agents. I don't need to hear from the chief of police that we all need to remain calm and protest peacefully. F you and F that. What are you doing to keep my community safe from these thugs? If you're not going to do it, then it's time for the American people to organize and utilize their Second Amendment right to protect themselves from what has clearly become an unaccountable and lawless agency that's killing Americans. Guy has become a hyper-predictable progressive activist. Now, side note here. This may be too online for some of you. This may be too online for a number of my listeners, but just bear with me. There are a group of what I call Theo bros out there, and they're all about we need to be a Christian nation, and we need to get Christians in office, and we need to impose Christianity. It's these Christian nationalist Theo bros. Some of them are white supremacists, and they believe that only the white people are chosen by God, and they all have the same haircut. They've all got the same haircut. They all kind of look alike. They've all got the same facial hair. They've all got the same interests. They all kind of say the same thing. They all just are strikingly similar in how they look and how they talk. It's kind of wild when you look at the one to the other, to the other, to the other, that they all have a similar look, and the plaid shirts and the flannel and the facial hair and the what is it, the high fade haircuts or whatever a lot of them have. They all kind of look alike, and they're all just as annoying. The white women progressives with the barista haircuts targeting the ICE agents, they all kind of look alike too. What is it about these two groups of people that they have decided to amalgamate themselves together? That it is this weird amalgamation of all of these women look alike. There's a video circulating of another progressive white woman who is harassing ICE agents from her car, and she looks almost like Renee Good. It's the weird bad dye job barista haircut, like this woman should not be in her car harassing ICE agents. Someone is in need of a latte, and she is not there to make it for them. And I don't understand what talk about a collectivist issue here. It is that the Theo bros online all kind of look like each other, and it's a virtue tribal signal. I'm going to wear the same sort of shirts. I'm going to say the same sorts of things in the same sorts of ways, oftentimes crass and graceless. I'm going to have the same haircut. I'm going to grow out my facial hair the same way. We're all going to be gym bros together, and they all sort of look alike. And it's like the trans community. They all kind of look obviously by nature, the trans community, they look very freakish, but it's all robust individuality, and where robust individuality is actually they all want to look alike. They all want to look the same way. Their robust individualism is to conform to what each other looks like. And with the Theo bros on Twitter, it is the same thing. They all just kind of adopt each other's characteristics. And it's the same with these progressive women. I'm trying not to call them Karens, but many of them are awfuls. The affluent white female urban liberal. And they drive the same sorts of cars, Subaru. They drive the same sorts of vehicles with the stickers on the back. This case, the lady was driving a Honda Pilot. They have the same sorts of haircuts. Oftentimes, it's like you need to go back and get your hair restyled, and you haven't had time. They all say the same sorts of trashy stuff, and they all just look alike. They have asserted their individuality by becoming the same people. They're all the same people. I can think of about a dozen of these Theo bros online, and they're almost indistinguishable doppelgangers from one another at this point. And the same thing, you have these women, and they all just kind of look alike. These affluent, and not all of them are necessarily affluent, but these white female urban liberals, the awfuls. They act the same, they dress the same, they have the same sorts of glasses, the same sorts of clothes, the same sorts of bad haircuts. I mean, they are depriving someone somewhere of their latte while they have escaped their barista livelihood to go do this. It is the wildest thing when you realize how these people and these tribes all begin to look alike, whether it's the Theo Bros or the Awfuls. Now, what does that tell me? You know, so John Delaney, or is it Delaney? John Delaney. John Delaney. He's written a book on a non-anxious life. This reminds me, Charlie. I'm trying to get John on the program. I was listening. I've embraced audiobooks. A buddy of mine who's a pastor has insisted you just do audiobooks. I always feel guilty. It feels like a cheat, but I've been working through John's book on anxiety and about how during COVID we had this breakdown on community. And I've really noticed that after COVID, as people reasserted themselves into community, it wasn't enough just to commune with people again. It's people adopted each other's tics and habits and vocabulary and personalities and stylings. And we have taken our individuality that before COVID seemed generally pretty distinct, each person. And now we've adopted the same dress and style and all of that. And I laugh at myself all the time. I've kind of adopted the golfer look, the Holderness and Bourne and the Peter Millar shirts and the Roan pants and the different shoes and socks. And it's like I might as well play golf because I'm dressed like the golfer. But they're certainly, I like the clothes. I think they're comfortable and they fit well. But the people get the same haircuts and the bad dye jobs and the same verbal tics and all that. It is just the weirdest loss of individuality into the tribe. We have overcorrected in some cases. We haven't found real community. We haven't wanted to build real community. What happened is in COVID, our communities were all shut down. And when we were all allowed back out of the house, instead of going back to the communities we had, it was kind of like, a kid moves to a different school and decides that I'm gonna rebrand myself in this school. I'm gonna be somebody different than the last school I was in. It's like we got out of the house after COVID, and instead of going back to our old community, we're like, I'm gonna build my own community, and it's gonna look just like me now. And it really does look just like you. And the amount of groupthink. I mean, the herd, everybody's running each other off a cliff right now with this sort of stuff. And it's just kind of wildly crazy to see all this. It's kind of wildly crazy to recognize that a bunch of people in the name of hyper-individuality have given themselves over to a collective effort of insanity, particularly the people who dwell online. It's the wildest thing. The more online you are, the more this stuff happens. I actually got an email earlier from someone who was commenting on Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson. Megyn Kelly has now talked about how Nick Fuentes is someone we can learn stuff from. She doesn't mean the Jew stuff. She doesn't mean the black stuff. She doesn't mean all the anti-Semitism stuff. Apparently there's something we can learn from him. I personally think there's not a lot we can learn from a 20-something gay Nazi, but you do you, Megyn. And it's kind of like she's now embracing this tribe, and so she's got to have these positions. It's no longer unique. It's I can listen to Megyn Kelly and get the same views from Tucker Carlson, get the same views from Candace Owens. There's no more unique thought there. It's just different personalities saying the same thing, taking the same wild positions, and the positions themselves are wild. But it's happening online so much. And someone asked me why I hadn't brought it up, and I got to tell you, I don't think 99% of you care about the online soap opera drama on social media. I certainly do not care about the drama. There are so many other things going on in the world, but people get in these little tribes and they have to care about the same thing in the same way and dress the same and get the same haircut. And now we got all these barista women out there who are trying to run over ICE agents and then denying that's what they're doing when you can see on the camera footage that's exactly what's happening. Politico and its playbook have long been accused by people on the right of having a very distinct left-wing bias. In fact, there are a number of people who left Politico, Jake Sherman and others who started Punchbowl News, who, and I don't want to say Jake was the one who said it, but there are plenty who did leave and said that Politico was drifting left. And Politico accidentally listed its sources today for helping My buddy Nathan Brand does a Substack now and calls it the Brand Report. Let me just read you what he wrote. It's always instructive to get to glimpse inside newsroom decision making, and Washington got a rare look at how Politico Playbook aggregates the news. Sean Spicer's the one who caught it. Conservatives weren't shocked to learn that Playbook relies heavily on legacy outlets and left-wing outlets like Vox and The Atlantic. Of the 32 publications they monitor, only 3 of them lean right: Fox News, National Review, and the Wall Street Journal editorial page. They don't even look at the Washington Free Beacon, which I look at every day. The Epoch Times, the Washington Free Beacon, the National Review, Newsmax, Breitbart, the Daily Signal, Daily Wire. Now, all of these groups are doing their own individual reporting now. They've all hired reporters. The Washington Examiner, the Washington Times. Nope, Politico doesn't look at any of those. It looks at Vox News, which is a left-wing outfit, The Atlantic, which is left. By the way, it also says in Politico to only look at Axios sparingly, which is wild, but it kind of confirms what everyone on the right has noted for a while. These outlets are all in a bubble, massive groupthink bubble, and it pollutes what they report. It shapes what they report, and it's why they're missing stories. It's why so many news outlets went out of their way to malign an ICE agent who was hit by a car, with the New York Times going so far as to claim an authoritative compilation of all the angles of all the videos to show he wasn't hit. And now we have his own video footage where clearly you can hear the thud of the car hitting him as he drops his phone. And you know what the media say now is, well, we can't see it because the phone drops. That's what they're actually saying. These people are deeply malcontented progressives. And, I got to say, I spend way more time now having to read a lot more news stories to actually figure out what's going on in the world because they're all so biased. I got to read from the left. I got to read from the right. I got to read from the center, from the moderates, and put it all together just to try to figure out that one coherent story of what's going on, because everybody leaves out facts that are inconvenient to their narrative because nobody really wants to tell you the truth. They want to tell you the narrative. And storytelling is great. It's what I do for a living to try to keep you entertained. But at some point, we got to get to what's actually happening here, whether it's this story in Minnesota or Venezuela or Iran or anything else. Now, before I get out of here, having made it through the first week back at work, I want you to keep your eye on Iran, please. The situation in Iran continues to devolve. I would not be surprised if the United States takes military action in Iran over the weekend. I'm not going to say it's happening. I have no inside sources on this, but I would not be surprised at all if we see it. The president has been very adamant that if they start gunning down the protesters, he's going to start blowing up the regime, and they have started gunning down the protesters. So I am very, very interested to see what actions we take in Iran. It is a story where that country is descending into what appears to be revolution. You should, by the way, pray for the Iranian people. They are really good people. They love the West, and they would be a stabilizing force in the Middle East if they were able to overthrow their oppressive regime. One last thing. Karen in Dayton, Ohio, if you're still listening, my sister texted me during commercial break, said a church prepared meals for the Border Patrol and ICE agents and National Guard agents in Memphis. That's another thing that you and your church group can do. Make these ICE agents and Border Patrol agents feel loved as the left comes for them. You guys have a great weekend. I will see you on Monday.